Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at the verbs like gustar that we saw last week. We're going to introduce new pronoun verbs that use different pronouns than the ones we saw with gustar. And we're going to have a look at the verb haber, ser, and estar. So, verbs like gustar, as you saw last week, we have this general form of verbs like gustar because there's other verbs apart from gustar, okay? So, if you had a look at the Spanish verb tenses that I told you about, you can see some of those verbs there, like the verb interesar, fascinar. There's one or two that are er, like parecer. So there's different ones, okay? So the important thing that you have to remember is that we use an obligatory indirect object pronoun, mete le, nos, or les. And then the endings are going to be a or an if the verb is ar, depending on a for singular thing, me gusta el chocolate, or me gusta jugar an action or several actions, al tenis. And then me gustan los libros if the verb is the subject, in fact, is plural, okay, an. So this is just repeating what we did last week. Me gusta salir con mis amigos, los fines de semana. A Marta no le gusta salir los fines de semana, prefiere cenar con sus amigos en casa. Just two examples in the affirmative, me gusta, in the negative, no le gusta. Let's try to translate these sentences into Spanish. Do you like studying Spanish? With two. Marta and I like going to the cinema at the weekend. And finally, she doesn't like reading books, but he does. Okay? So it's a hint. For he does say to him, yes. Okay? That's just a trick. So I'll give you some minutes. Okay? Some minutes for you. And let's see if you can figure out how to do this. You're going to stop the video here and we look at the answers. A ti, or simply te, gusta estudiar español. ¿A ti te gusta estudiar español? Or ¿te gusta estudiar español? A Marta y a mí nos gusta ir al cine los fines de semana. A ella no le gusta leer libros, pero a él sí. That was to him, yes. Okay. How do you do? It's not easy. Okay, so you have to spend a little bit of time on these type of verbs to get them right. Today we move on to something called reflexive verbs, or in your book that you have is Unit 5E, and or you can call them also verbos pronominales, pronoun verbs we call them. Okay. The first thing is that when you look them up in the dictionary, for example, you're looking for to take off clothes, okay? You're going to see the verb like that, quitarse, or put on clothes, ponerse, or lavarse, okay? So basically this se is saying to you, and sorry for the background noise because there's some construction today going on, and as you know, we're working from home. So the first thing I have to say is that that se won't be used when you're conjugating, okay? It's only there to tell you that this verb is reflexive, or it has two forms. Lavar, to wash somebody. Lavarse, to wash myself, to have a wash, okay? In fact, in English, sometimes that pronoun is not translated at all. You've already seen one of these verbs when you learned how to say, what's your name? Me llamo, te llamas, se llama, nos llamamos, os llamáis, se llaman. Why am I putting emphasis on se? So that you see that the pronouns we use with gustar were the same except for that one. Okay, so indirect subject pronouns are mete, le, nos, os, les, but reflexive pronouns are mete, se, nos, os, se. Okay, despertarse, to wake up. In this case, the verb on top of that is temp changing. So we have me despierto, te despiertas, se despierta, nos despertamos, os despertáis, and se despiertan. Okay, so things get a little bit complicated as we go on with the present tense. Where do we put this reflexive pronoun? Well, we always put the pronouns in front of the first conjugated verb. And I say first because later on you'll see two verbs with two words, Okay, so we're going to go with me levanto todos los días a las 7 de la mañana. After a preposition, it can be attached to the infinitive because after prepositions we don't conjugate the verb. So we say something like this: después de levantarme. So we change this guy. Voy al cuarto para ducharme. Those two are prepositions, de and para. After getting up, I go to the bathroom to have a shower. If we have two verbs, like in the form voy a, okay, I'm going to. Mañana voy a levantarme a las 8 porque no tengo clase hasta las 10. We can put it there after the infinitive, or we can put it at the front. Mañana me voy a levantar a las 8 porque no tengo clase hasta las 10. It doesn't matter which form you use, they're exactly the same. Some other examples. ¿Te acuerdas el nombre de nuestro profesor de inglés? Do you remember? Acordarse. It's a stem changing and reflexive verb. Acostarse. Mi amiga Belén no se acuesta nunca antes de medianoche, pero siempre se duerme viendo la tele. So go to bed, acostarse, stem changing and reflexive, and dormir. To fall asleep, dormirse, to fall asleep. Okay? We say dormir as to sleep, and dormirse is to fall asleep, to doze off. So let's try to translate these sentences, okay? And we'll do the same thing. You can stop the video and then we'll look at the answers. So say goodbye to my friend. The verb despedirse, stem changing from it to I, the second E there. Remember, it's always the first vowel on the right after the IR or AR, if you move from right to left. You have fun, with the verb divertirse, with stem changing as well, I to I, E. To get dressed, vestirse, I to I, or ponerse ropa, which is regular for your purpose. It's a yo, irregular verb, pongo, but then in the form of she, which is used in this sentence, is not irregular. We always argue, pelearse, regular but reflexive, and they complain about the weather, quejarse de algo. That about is de in this case, okay? So take your time, stop the video, do them in your own time, and then we see the answers. So I'm going to open a Word document and you're going to see the answers live. I'm going to copy them so you see them. And here we go. I say goodbye to my friend. Me despido de mi amigo o amiga, if you decided for a feminine. Vosotros os divertís. How did I do that, father? I did control apostrophe and then the vowel. So control apostrophe, present them at the same time, and then release and do the I. Si gets dressed, se viste. Or, if you go with the other verb, se pone la ropa, or se pone ropa. We always argue, nos peleamos. Do I need nosotros? No, I could, but I don't need it. And finally, they complain about the weather. Se quejan del tiempo o del clima. Okay? So I'll make them big so you can see them better. Me despido de mi amigo. Os divertís, or vosotros os divertís. Ella se viste, ella se pone la ropa, o nosotros nos peleamos. Ellos se quejan del tiempo o del clima. Okay? And we're going to have a look at a few verbs that we have here. Okay? So we have the verb haber. The verb haber means there is and there are. Okay? We saw it at the beginning of the year. So in the present tense, it uses the word I. Okay, and it's used to talk about something that has not yet been mentioned in the previous context. So, for example, we say, en mi ciudad hay un museo muy famoso, or no hay naranjas. Important thing, it will never be used with el, la, los, las, because of this. Because we say the word la, we already know what we're talking about. Estar. We use estar when we have previously introduced a particular place, object, or person. Our listener knows that information because it has been mentioned before. This verb is used to indicate location or to talk about a perceived change. En París hay una torre de metal altísima, conocida como la Torre Eiffel. Está en el centro, al lado de los Campos Elíseos. In other words, it gives us the location. Okay, so estar, we used the acronym before, place for position, location, action in terms of the present continuous or the continuous, condition or emotion. Those are the uses of the verb estar. And finally, we have the verb ser. Okay, so we use ser when the subject of the sentence is an event, a match, or a concert. So we say time or location with it. Okay, so event. This is the exception to the P and the L in the place acronym that we use for estar. El partido es a las 10. When the word following is a noun, we say Alicia es mi hermana, mi mejor amigo es piloto. And to define a person, an object, or a place. Su casa es muy bonita, son irlandeses. We then date, occupation, characteristics, time, origin, and relation. So son las 2, soy profesor, soy alto, es las 3 de la tarde, or es el 1 de enero, if you wanted to date like that. Soy de España, and soy su hermano. Okay, so you can use these, Pinterest, or these 2 acronyms to remember the uses of ser and estar. Finally, we were going to do